Welcome to the 2-Month Review, the weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%. I am Chad Post from Open Letter Books, and this is a podcast in which we take a giant book, or in this case, 5 books, break them down bit by bit, read them section by section, and talk, analyze, have fun, try and make sense of them. In this case, this season is our 18th, and we are doing Quin's books. Specifically, today we'll be talking about TRIPTICKS in its entirety. And I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox, and Kaya Stramanis, woman who doesn't finish books.
Yeah, I will be joining you guys only up until page 165 this time.
Oh man, so you get right to the point where it like goes in a hyperdrive, and then you're like, poof, not there.
Bored, over it, next. Ding, next.
I thought maybe it was just a play in words. Women that don't finish. It's kind of part of the book as well. So yeah.
I would.
A lot of.
And that's it for this week's episode.
There we go.
How are y'all doing out there? So, really, how are you two doing?
I'm doing well. I made myself eggnog. I don't know why. I thought to just get in the holiday spirit, and it's basically like this is what alcohol does when it's in your stomach, and you're just drinking it outside of your stomach. It's basically just like a holiday vomit, but whatever.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Chug.
So I was going to say that looks like milk. But what that reminds me of, this is how I'm doing. This is where my week is that our 4-year-old wanted some juice, and he has these little pumpkin bottles, and he's like, is this one juice? I'm like, yeah, it's probably juice. Taste it. If it's not, we'll fix it. And so he took it out of the kitchen, left with it, and then comes running back and pushes past me and spits into the sink. And it's this like creamy brownish beige. And I'm like, oh God, like what is that? And he's like, it's not juice. It's not juice. And I'm like, what is it? And I pick up the bottle thinking it's old milk. It's frickin' Bailey's that we put in his little pumpkin bottle to sneak into the movie theater when we went to watch the World Cup. And the whole time I was like, we need to be careful because he might take this thinking it's his. Oh my God, poor kid just chugged a mouthful of Bailey's, did not enjoy it, spit it out. I've never seen him spit something out that fast before.
Well, you're doing it wrong if you're training your kid to be a spitter, not a swallower. I mean, right? Mine, like, can I try your wine? I'm like, sure. And like, she takes a sip and just like, oh, I'm like, okay, wow.
Yeah, but on the plus side, don't have to.
Bailey's.
Yeah, on the plus side, don't have to worry about him accidentally drinking all the Baileys because he clearly did not enjoy it.
Yeah.
Parent of the year, just closing out 2022 with a couple of zingers.
Oh my God.
So that's how I'm doing.
That sounds about right. Sounds good.
Waiting for CPS to show up for a little holiday cheer.
And you, Chad, you're in the United States of America, correct?
Yes.
All right. Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time.
All right. And back in it to win it.
It's just Eastern Time now, though. I think the standard is in the summer.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just really quick, like side project. Since we're at the end of the year, did you have like a favorite book of the year? Everybody does their year-end lists or whatever. Did you have something that was like the favorite thing you read this year, or any?
You act as if I can remember anything from like one day to the next at this moment in time.
Did it have to come out this year, or can it just be the best thing you read this year?
I think best thing you read this year. I don't think it has to be time specific to the book coming out this year.
Okay.
Do you have one?
Do you have anything? Nothing that came off the top of my mind. I don't know why I just thought of it, because everybody's doing their best of lists of like the best movie of the year, the best car of the year, or whatever. Best news story of the year.
Podcast of the year. Which I do have one of those more recently. Hold on. I'm looking. What did I read? God, I don't know, man. I will think of something, and I will come up with it by the end. But at the moment, nothing. There are a lot of good books, but nothing that stands out. Actually, you know what? I'll go with something. You know what? I think the best book that I read this year, strangely, was this book called The Endless Rose by Carlos Molano. that just came out just came out from Delkey. It was a book that I edited, more proof than edited, but it was it ties into our podcast because Endless Rose is a Arkham Boldy book, and this book
really?
is set up to tie into sort of into that universe. It's the story of these two publishers who want to find like a really, you know, groundbreaking experimental book that's gonna, you know, make the world. And they find this book from this woman, and it's like completely captivating. And they go on a trip to go see Welbeck together, and then it breaks out into like a violent, extremely violent, strange, like Bolaño sort of scene. It's very short, like 120 pages, crisp, amazing, like absolutely amazing. It was in the New York Times the other week, but it was definitely, that was a book that is one of my favorite books, and I read that this year. I'm pretty sure I read that this year. I may have read that in 2021. I don't know what years are.
Was 2666? Did we do that? Was that 2022?
I don't know, man.
I can't remember. If
Sure.
it was,
so.
I forgot that we read that, but that, you know, I'm late to the party to actually read that cover to cover. That was staggeringly good to sustain that for that long. And then I'm writing a review of for a magazine in London on Sarah Mesa. So I'm reading Sarah Mesa's translated works right now. Just pick up anything by her. She's kind of crushing it. Like that's worth checking. I put those two. So yay, I'm world literature man today. All right.
There you go. Yeah, right on.
Ooh.
Hey, do you have a favorite book?
Yeah, I just looked through my Goodreads, and I can go in three parts maybe to follow up Brian's. My favorite thing that Open Letter had come out this year was Wolfskin by Lara Moreno. Absolutely amazing, just amazing book. I've given it to a few people since it came out. At the beginning of the year, I finally read Lady Susan by Jane Austen, which is like all of 80 pages. I feel loved it. It struck me as sort of classic Jane Austen, like all the Cliff's Notes version of all her structural and character quips. I laughed the whole way through. And interestingly enough, I'm also working through my scratch-off poster of 100 essential novels as per whatever company made this poster. And I really enjoyed I, Claudius.
That's so good.
Super insanely long, but it was another one that I expected to be bored out of my mind. But again, I laughed the whole way through. So those.
Yeah, if you like the first line, I think you'll be on for the ride, right? That's like one of those great if you don't like the first line, good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the historical bent to it, obviously, and everything. There's everything about it. I was pleasantly surprised.
By the way, we finished 2666 1 year ago next week.
Okay, so it did make it. Okay, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, cool.
So it was like just a year. It was just a year ago. Amazing. I'll throw out the non-literary or non-super literary, but this is the year that I read 1 million Kate Atkinson books. Like all of the mystery books, all the Jackson Brodie books, a bunch of the ones that have hers that are like more World War based ones, and she became like my favorite, like enjoyable author to read. Like joy, pure joy. It's not like it's dumb. They're very, very smart, and they're very complicated. Great TV show called Case Histories out of some of them, but also like don't feel like you have to like, you know, bang your head against a wall reading.
So should we transition to the unenjoyable author then?
Let's transition to the unenjoyable author. I to be honest, I was lost when we went back into this. I felt like I had such a grasp last week when we did the podcast, and then I went back to start reading this, and I was like, I don't know if it was just like the time of day or like my concentration, but I was just like, I don't know what the shit I'm doing anymore. I don't know what I'm reading. And then it really was like, I was kind of like, okay, yeah, yep, going along. And then it gets to the point where he goes to like I don't know what you want to call it, like the camp, the retreat, the West Coast, I don't know, hippie festival. And I could not stop laughing.
This half was definitely funnier for me.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm
Brian?
curious. On the West Coast, just like It's in Big Sur. There's the Esalen Institute, and it made me wonder if it was based off of that at all. I'd been there before. One of my friends, her older brother was at the Esalen Institute learning like acupuncture or something like that, and we went to go visit him. And it's a nudist colony, and like they're doing naked volleyball when we were there. They have like hot springs that are on the cliffs. It's around the like if anything new age like that you can think of, they do there. And then you know that like it's just everybody just probably swinging at the same time. Like it's just like it's probably that. But like this totally gave me like that Esalen Institute vibe. And it's when you go there, it's like stepping back in time because it's got the 60s, like the best of the 60s vibe. It just never died there. It's like that bubble never burst.
The way it should be.
Yeah, and I swear that's what this was.
That makes sense to me. That's what I was envisioning, something along those lines, but like but not that specific, but along those lines. I think I keep saying it's on the West Coast, and I keep saying it's California, but I read in some of the criticism pieces that I looked at that it's like New Mexico, but I don't know how you would know that or why you would know that. But it doesn't matter.
Like what was the Frank Lloyd Wright when he moved out west? Taliesin. I'm gonna sound stupid, but whatever. Same kind of vibe where it's like an art commune out in the high desert, sort of, you know. Yeah.
Any similarities to Marfa, Chad?
Yeah, Marfa came up. It reminded me a lot of Marfa at various points in time. Although Marfa had less swinging and fewer psychedelics, but
more turkeys.
Fuck that turkey. Fuck that turkey. But yeah, like it did remind me of that too. I don't know if there's any summary for this section aside from that. There's a lot of time spent on his father-in-law, and they're sort of like breaking apart, I guess, and then they're back on the road, back on the chase, goes to that institute, and then things are just a free-for-all up until when everyone decides to judge him, and he's put on trial basically at the end by the Inquisitors, and the ending is wonderful, but we can get to that. You look perplexed, Ryan. I feel like you have a question.
No, because I was just trying to think, like, I feel like this is just a satire of an American road novel, and I think it's very appropriate that an outsider would be lampooning an American road novel. And I don't know, like I think at some point in graduate school I took a course on American road narratives, you know, and I think we started with like Melville. Like Melville's the original, you know, even though it's on the sea, like it's the American travel log kind of thing, right? Yeah. Like when it became very popular in the 60s and 70s, this idea of like the American Adam and going west, and you know, it's kind of like psychedelics and Manifest Destiny having a love child, and like you get all these kind of books that come out of that. Yeah. And I'm wondering like what the checklist is of writing that kind of book, or what the expectations are, and what does she check off in this book? Weirdly, check off for you.
One of those things like that I'm looking at right here, I've got some great lines. Every bit of this has great lines. Like I have so many lines of the week marked. I can't even begin, but is the epistolary nature of it. There's something about the epistolary nature of like that sort of novel. And I don't know if it fits into all those novels, but to me, it sort of does. It's like Letters from the Road, or like, wasn't that the Steinbeck Letters from Charlie sort of vibe? Like that
Travels with Charlie.
Like that sort of idea of like writing like little postcard snippets of things, but in here it's all upended because it's like he's never around, and his karate kitten sending him like shit. Like this one on 114 her letter begins with, "I've got the chauvinistic shakes," and then she goes on to say, "As for your erotic fantasies, well, they're the kind that make horny middle-aged businessmen sibilate their litany. This is shit. What is this shit? And your ideas have the idiot simplicity of a high school sorority hazing."
Well, the thing with the postcards and the letters and the notes, like it's, I don't know, maybe it's easier now because we're further along. We look back at it, but it's it kind of makes you groan because it's like this way of using like indirect personification, or you know, it's kind of like a cheap little tool someone uses to write a letter, and you can have the inside come out, and that way the character can reveal themselves, and it's like, oh god, okay, like letters to the editor. Like, I'm going to write to this editor person we don't know. And it's just me. I don't want to have a diary, but it's like this cheap trick.
The type of exposition.
Yeah. Well, and here it's just like, nah, this is just stupid. This is just stupid crap. Don't look into it any more than what is here.
I thought it was the most grounding. What?
They're always like, why are you such a fuck up? Like, basically.
I thought it was the most grounding part of the book.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that the diary entries in the other two, for me, without those, I would have probably just given up at some point, I feel.
This relates to last week we talked about, I mentioned Mulligan's Stew that I've been proofing. I think I read it after we had our conversation, but there's a section in which the bad novelist has a series of letters that are written from like this character in his book, this character's friend who first is having this affair with Daisy Buchanan, of course, and then like gets involved with these two Mexican erotic dancers. And after he writes the whole section, it's all these letters, and it's very much that. It's very much having fun with that idea of like, you know, he's saying so many things, but it's also like written in bad English at various points in time. And then when he gets done, the novelist is like, you know, I bet people are going to wonder, like, why would this guy have copies of his own letters that were like love letters that he wrote to other people? This really doesn't make any like sense, like from like a like a realist perspective. He's like, so what? The critics never get me anyways.
That always happens to me when I either get like really, really drunk or in a more altered mind state, where I start having this like problem with my mind trying to figure out, wait, why is who is this narrator and why are they telling this story? This doesn't make any sense. Why would anybody ever tell a story like that? It's like, no, just suspend your disbelief for just a second. No, I can't. Like, I'm really thinking about this hard right now.
It's like the old Hemingway thing. Like, how would you know, like the way that it's recounted and As the Sun Also Rises, like how would the narrator remember so much detail and they're like piss blackout drunk continually? Like, this doesn't, reality is really bad. I have to say one of my favorite lines as I'm flipping through here is again, where like, I think this is when, so he has the letters and then like he's back with, there's like jumps in time, but back with like the father-in-law.
The first wife, yeah.
First wife, father-in-law has a lot going on here. And this is one of my favorite parts on 124. But how does he see me? Steel rimmed glasses, sideburns, semi-successful mustache. That moment alone, this book is worth the price of admission just to get to semi-successful mustache.
Here's another one I have, and maybe this is more of a postmodern trope that I keep seeing, is this fascination with Disneyland.
Oh yeah,
with fantasies and reality, and like you see it with like the like French philosophers and essayists wanting to write about Disneyland. Yeah. I think of like same year, like 71. Is this 71 or 72? 72. 1971 was E.L. Doctorow, Book of Daniel. The climax of that book takes place in Disneyland when you're trying to reveal the truth of what's that. It's like this like postmodern game of using Disneyland to like talk about fantasy versus reality, and I thought it worked really well with this as well.
Yeah, and like the simulacrum versus the sign, it does upend like that idea. It does fit in with like the postmodern condition in that sense of like it. I mean, Disneyland embraces its falsehood to a point that it's real.
Mm-hmm.
It literally goes through the looking glass.
It would have like blown their minds to see like that town they built in Florida or whatever it's called, where you can like live celebration. Yeah, you can like live a Disney life now. Like they've not like, oh, you thought we'll take it to a whole nother level. You had no clue. You want postmodern celebration.
You're inside of that. But the book,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot.
Quin is like the literary Banksy in a way.
I mean, there is. So this is jumping way ahead, but like. This is jumping way ahead, but it might be a good framing device for the rest of this. Is the very last, so the very end, he's being chased. This is the part that I was gonna make a joke. Go to page 188 for a second. Is I think there are words missing here. I want to read this quote, but I don't know where I'm supposed to insert things. Down near the bottom, it begins, the whole thing had really reached a goddamn farce. Where for Christ's sake, and then by Christ's sake is cut off. Is yours cut off too?
Yeah.
Okay, so where for Christ's sake, the movie cameras and Bob Hope dressed as an Indian would surely appear in the midst of the dancers. What am I into? Party games? Shit. Then I remembered my mother-in-law was a member of one of those new women's liberation groups, which Women's International Terrorist Conspiracy from Hell, more guerrilla than IRA. And he gets pursued by which, just brilliant, pursued by which and by this Indian, everyone listening, I'm using the words from the book, and like gets to this point where like he's running away. And there's one line that just says, dissolving false and ideological constructs about the world and letting reality emerge as it really is, which sort of reflects on what you were just saying, Brian. And then he ends up at a lectern in front of a pulpit, in front of the inquisitors that are referred to as inquisitors. And it says, leaning over the wood, staring at the spluttering candles, the slanting eyes of the statues all around me, their shadows like Kachina gods dancing in the walls of earth moving out into the world. I opened my mouth, but had no words. Only the words of others I saw, like ads, texts, psalms, from those who attempted to persuade me into their systems, a power I did not want to possess, the Inquisition. I think that might sort of reflect on what you were saying, Brian, and be a space of like that this character is being filled up with these different images and ads and systems. Like if Disney is one system, the church is another system, the family is another system. I was looking into R.D. Laing because he came up a couple times now about the schizophrenia thing. In one of the books that he wrote, oh shoot, it's gone now, but was like called like I shouldn't say this wrong, but it was something to the effect of like the illusion of the family, or like it was something based in like the critique of like the family and the patriarchal sense of self and impact as a system. And I like the fact that this book is a series of systems in that way. And then at the end, when he hits that point, it's like all breaks open, all the ideologies fall away, and reality can emerge from without that. I have no words. She is, and in a way, like if this, we say that we're saying he because it is a he within the context of the book, but that's kind of her at the end. It's just her open mouth, not saying anything, but letting all the other detritus flow in and out and around.
Yeah, I thought the pulpit was a wonderful way to bring that kind of that evangelical satire line come all the way through.
Yeah.
But then, like, I don't know, it felt a little on the nose to me, but like it kind of, harkened back to when we learned about Plato's cave for the first time and the shadows on the wall and what is reality and just kind of this prison you put yourself into that you're comfortable not to get out of. And I like the way that character by the end of it was like, am I chasing them or are they chasing me? I have no clue anymore. Like everything unraveling and just the chaos and the weight and the absurdity of I don't know, the American West, basically.
Yeah. Sanity, madness, and the family.
Yeah.
That's the title of the book.
Sanity, madness, and the family. But yeah, there's just so many like Jim. Like it's going to be hard to just pick a line for this week because like they were just banger after banger on this.
I feel like the second half is just like just like line after line. Every scene has its own like amazing little bit to it.
like one, I really like connected with 171 for some reason. There's two lines on there. Remember the good old days when only God would end the world?
I remember we at Book Expo years ago, and I think it was with Boris Kachka, but it might have been someone else. So whoever told this joke, credit goes to you, but I can't remember who you were. But the big book at Book Expo where they always have like a book that sponsors like all the lanyards and there's signs everywhere, and it was like Robopocalypse, and whoever I was talking to was like, man, first we have the vampires, then you have the zombies, and now you got the robots. Like, I just like the time when like people killed people. Like it was so much easier when people were killing people. So these fucking like monster things.
And then and a little bit below that on in 171, at least Icarus put some wings on before he jumped off.
Like almost like all one-liners.
She's just crushing it at this last third of the book. It has that weird like momentum. It's like the engines on the open road, and it's just idling at like 80 and just cruising, like zoom, 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 just passing things by and just moving.
I think in terms of
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know. I will know, but I wouldn't know.
There's a part here on page 153 and 154 that I think is at the end. This is where I like really relocked into the book, and it's before it gets to the institute thing, but it's with his father-in-law. Like the father-in-law is like talking. Well, before that, the father-in-law is like, today's man of action speaks his mind, moving to make his mark on a dozen tired computers. It's got all this like kind of the man of action bit again, all the kind of like, how do you take over and present yourself within the world? It's like he complains about how much money he has to spend on his wife and all of her various things, like her hair and her olive oil and her walnut dress or whatever it might be. And then there's this part on 153, 154 that begins. It's such like, this is sharp as shit. But he is a tough man, shrewd and self-assured, standing there beside the backyard barbecue pit, swathed in an apron and holding a Manhattan on the rocks as he contemplates his prized swimming pool, or sitting out on the terrace with a bourbon in one hand and a BB gun in the other to shoo the squirrels away from the seeds he put out for the birds. Much of the time, he was like a hairy, double-jawed grasshopper, a normal grasshopper, evenly dispersed and alone. Then suddenly, and at unpredictable intervals, he turns into a mob, blackening the skies like a tornado. The manic change in his personality, apparently triggered by some violent alteration in the household, or sharp fluctuations in temperature or humidity, or the stock market. At times he developed a voracious appetite. Like, it's such a like depiction of that moment of that 50s male bit, the bourbon, the BB gun, the sudden anger, the like, all of that's like so spot on.
But then you have the next paragraph where, Brian, you're showing something.
Oh, just my note on that, I underlined. I just put USA.
American male.
Yeah, like I felt like she was just tapped in, nailing it as an outsider, just nailed it.
Yep.
You guys talking about it as a man of action, right in the next paragraph, it's that very sharp as shit section. And then the very next paragraph, he's like, I turned down his offer to work for him and then proved that he could break his pens. And then he looked and sounded not unlike Hitler, but without the jar.
I wanted to quote that line, but I was like, man, I don't know.
I just like, I get this feeling, and in this half of the book, and especially in relation to the first wife, and talking about the sort of suspension of reality or the questioning of where the reality is, most of the narrator's reality lies within this relationship net built within the life of the first ex-wife, like her father, her mother, her, and he's just like already doomed to fail all of it. Like, he's never going to amount to it. But do you guys not feel like he has a desire to always be part of it? Like, he keeps getting into increasingly wild relationships and situations on the emotional end of things, but he keeps going back to this first ex-wife and her family and that sort of unstable stability, to sort of put it in an Anne Quinian way. Does this narrator want to get away from this sort of American dream, or does he want to be part of it?
I was thinking that these are systems in which you can't escape. She's always his number one ex-wife.
Mm-hmm. Still married.
Still married to Christy. This is an inside joke that'll never grow old. But like the church things that come up there too, there's all these things that, like, even if you don't want to be part of it, there's still like the language of the world. You don't want to be a consumerist. The ads are there. Disneyland exists. You don't want to be part of this family, and yet you're beholden in some regards to the ex-wife and her family, the witches.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this beholdenness to it, like page 135, he's saying about how did that marriage end? God knows, The further removed from a situation, the less objective I feel. Misinterpretation of memory. The effects remembered, but rarely the causes. I mean, going back to the obsession with 3, those so, I spent more time trying to read and understand what the hell I was reading than actually analyzing it in any intelligent way. But all the 3 of all of it, id, ego, super ego, is there that sort of functionality to it?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because the part that I was looking at just now as you were talking is on 156, where it begins with like, the time has come to call a halt to this theater of the absurd, to examine the motivation of the authors of the absurdity and challenge the star players. Let me now, as they say in court, connect up with the current scene. And then it sort of goes on and it's like, I could be on my own pad in Malibu, sitting on the deck, drink in one hand, my chick in the other, and listening to the surf fall. But he'd gone down that route enough times to have pain memories, blah, 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 get stiff, grab a shower, take a plane, blah, 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 as he moved along the chat and canopy circuit last week in his polka dot shirt, Levi's and sneakers. He seemed more a displaced mountain man than, but the scene is now. But there's like that id-like nature of that, like I could just be on my place in Malibu with my chick and my drink and my doing this thing, and it's like, but now this.
Yeah.
And then a super ego standing in with like the church and the parent and the
yeah. What about the murder? the
murder is
the beheading. What is going on there?
That's on the next page, right?
I mean, it's at the bottom of that page. Mystery of the missing corpse. Detectives were puzzled until a faint odor provided a lead.
Oh, but that's not. Wait, where is it?
And then page 158, it goes on. I mean, I think it starts on 154, 155.
Yeah. So when they go to he goes to the drive-in theater, right? The drive-in movie theater, drive-in movie. Feels so good, I'll treat myself to a drive-in movie. And this part is fucked up, like way fucked up. So for anyone who hasn't read it, just to like to give a gloss, like the character is at the movie theater, at the drive-in. He has this burning desire to kiss this girl in the car next to him. The girl in the car next to him and this guy are like going at it. A different guy comes up, a man with a long face, wide ears, and a crooked mouth, got out of his car. There's not a glittering expression in his eyes and a 32 caliber revolver in his right hand. He shoots into the car, takes the woman, drags her back to his car, and puts her in there. Like this is a true abduction sort of scene. And then jumps on the accelerator and drives off. Missing 3 days, the lovely body was found nude and ravished in a lonely lane. Police needed a clue, and they started under the old one, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's like the sudden violence, like the American sudden violence, like that feels very, it reminded me, the description of that scene really, really reminded me of the Zodiac Killer.
Yep. Same.
Like the sort of callousness of it. One of my favorite lines of the week, though, is right there in the middle that I skipped over.
Does it have to do with Zodiac?
I'll burn it. Batgirl may fight like a male, but her thinking is strictly female.
I was going to say, based off of Zodiac, looking at 169 in the middle, where it's sort of all the fun poking, or not fun poking, but the questioning of therapy and psychiatry. And then at the bottom, Libra and Scorpio rising, you have a suppressed natural instinct to smash the enemy with the club or go after him with a meat axe.
That's so, I love that. I have that marked too. That's one of my favorites.
I'm going to be watching out for all you Libra and Scorpio risings now. Jesus.
Yeah, well, I'm not Scorpio. I'm Gemini, but yeah. But there's another part here. There's a part that like, okay, so when you're talking about the therapy parts of it and the things that sort of like, it's sort of poking fun at them by like making them almost caricatures. But at the same time, some of this is like interesting. So for one, it's fun that it like goes into when he arrives, you're presented with these questions: your name, your trauma, what do you hope to gain from these workshops? which is so good. Your name, your trauma. And then there's like the bit, last week you forgot 3 appointments. Yesterday you almost lost an account. Today you went to sleep dictating. And tomorrow you just may blow your stack. Like that sort of endless pressure, especially represented in like a male-like way of like, it's unstable, followed by what I think is like truly an insightful comment. You don't riot against your enemies, but against your friends. I know your type. because you know your friends don't shoot. Which I think is really insightful, that it's easier to be pissy and attack one's friends because they're not going to kill you.
Yep. Same with kids and parenting.
Same way that Berg wanted to like pick on his mom and get his mom pissed so that she would yell at him and then comfort him.
This kind of reminds me of like when we were reading King Kong Theory. Or I don't know if that was part of our episode, but I read King Kong Theory, and Virginie talks about like women's liberation, sexual liberation, but then there's people that are going to rape you and kill you.
Yeah.
And that's just, it is what it is. So you better be prepared for that. Like carry a knife. Like this kind of like this reminds me of that, where there's all this liberation and freedom, freedom to move around. There's like sexual freedom that's explored here, freedom to have multiple partners, but then there's this horrific but plainly told male violence that runs throughout as well.
Yeah.
That's just under all of that. I found that really interesting. Like I kept thinking about that while reading this. And also just, I don't know, like the idea of like America being the new Eden, like the American Adam, and like playing with that with all of this nonsense that we explore in this book. Like there's all these supposed systems that they're allowing for freedom and liberation and exploration, do whatever. But I don't know, it all ends up, in the end, it ends up in that kind of like that same spot. Like whatever was before is the same thing. It's like when she's talking about history and the fact that, you know, you're not untethered from history despite what you think.
Like everything's going to regress always.
This part, all the writing in here is so loose. It does have that beat sort of rhythm and like jazzy flow to it. Like on 173, take the male chauvinist pig test. Do you flinch more that when a woman gets socked in the mouth than when a man does? Are you uneasy at how aggressive and unfeminine your woman editor is behaving? Or a woman lawyer? Or a weather woman? The electric flashes between women's liberation and male chauvinism are now the consuming revolutionary struggle. The single bathroom is open to both sexes, and on its anonymous walls are penned little dialectical nuggets that would bring a blush to the cheeks of Masters and Johnson and Brunhilde's war whoop to any half-baked feminist. Like that flow that's there is like such like a driving kind of rhythm and it's great. It's great. That's right next to another one that was one of my favorites where I just think this is such a funny image. I was transfixed by, he's looking at this woman. I was transfixed by her chin where all the fear and tension was concentrated in a kind of moronic half-open lockjaw look. Then lower down, I saw she was a silicon freak with breasts large enough to halt both traffic on Wall Street and arousal on 52nd Street.
Just like that detective novel kind of, right? That's that Raymond Chandler, like, she had a face that'd make a priest kick a stained glass window.
Yeah.
You know, like, all right, yeah, okay.
Oh man, I don't know, anything else that you guys want to like hone in on?
No orchids in this second part. There was one mention of orchids in the beginning, but there's a lot of pigs v dogs going on. Pig and dog imagery. I do appreciate that his wife, the ex-mother-in-law, gets the husband a pig for a present, and he's like, the best part of it is that her dog doesn't like it.
Yep. I don't know. Do you guys have a favorite line that we haven't already gone over? Oh yeah, the group.
I do.
Group grope.
Group. I underline that.
Group grope in the Feely show.
Yeah, that's
group in the Feely show is fucking wild. Like, what good drugs? What
I want that on a t-shirt. Group in the Feely show. That's a good band name.
Yeah.
There were so many zingers also in terms of insults in the letters themselves.
Yeah.
I will say my favorite one is on 116 in the middle. The Herculean change from Karate Kitten. Any attempt to pump life and humor into such a corpse as you have been, hold on a second. Something's wrong there. Oh, never mind. Never mind. It's just me. It's the Bailey's my child drink. Any attempt to pump life and humor into such a corpse as you have become is like fucking a mattress.
Oh, yes.
It's
Yes.
so mean. I just wrote damn next to it.
I love that.
And even the 114 before that and under the letter pullout, I didn't find your letter all that inspiring. Pleasant enough, but the energy level was almost zero. Like, Jesus. These are so mean.
No, I love it.
It's great.
Brian, you have one before.
Yeah, I'll go with again, like that wonderful satirization of America or the Republic of Texas that you did so well. It'll be on page 181. Plainly believing that he lives in God's country, he may even be trying to provide some benevolent fat deity with a blueprint for his own future return, as the apotheosis of the anti-hero fondling a missile as if it were a kitten.
Karate Kitten.
Karate Kitten. I have two, and I can't decide between them, so I'm just going to use the normal one, and we can end with the dirty one. The normal one that I think is great is 165. Our intellect. Wait. We don't talk. We produce shit in 3 brands: rat shit, cat shit, and elephant shit. Our intellect is an ever-chattering computer that splits us. We don't allow ourselves to feel. I love that. But then the dirty one is on 131. I mean, what does one do when there isn't a sexual fantasy left to get a hard on for 18 miraculous hours? I began having fantasies about animals.
And then it goes right into Fantasia.
Right into
no.
Disney.
Don't sexualize Fantasia.
Love it. So, I don't know.
I think the perfect ending, though, for this is, again, that idea of like America being the new Eden and it's untethered from history and it's a chance for something new and different. Page 139. That the future may learn from the past. Bullshit. You've met what you consider defeat and you're on the threshold of disillusionment.
I like that area too because it has that same sort of thing that where like I'm always fucking up cliches, but why not admit it? Yeah, what is it you're selling? The process of the game? You can't get blood out of a turnip, so stop thinking that you're nursing a hot potato. Wait a second. Those are definitely not right? Don't act like you're nursing a hot potato. Okay, any TRIPTICKS? Been there, done that. We are up to for next week. The last thing is The Unmapped Country, which is a collection of stories and her unfinished novel called The Unmapped Country. We're just going to do that all in one big swoop. It's a longer book, but like let's get it done, get out before the end of 2022, and then move on into the new year. In which I think that our first book that we should tackle to bring this whole thing full circle is the 3rd volume of Rodrigo Frazan's trilogy.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's only about yay big.
It's a thick boy.
Thank God we have ebooks because I am not going to be able to carry that. After the holidays, they're going to need to. I mean, maybe it'll be good because after the holidays, they're going to like get back in shape by lifting that fucker up once in a while.
Do your wrist exercise.
Yeah. So, anyways, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. You can find us online at 3%. You can and on wherever you get your podcasts under 2 Month Review and the 3% podcast. It's being uploaded under both. Rate us, review us. You can always join our Patreon, which is patreon.com/2 Month Review, all written out. Everyone else is on Twitter. Anything else you want to plug?
How many days left to get an open letter subscription for a year? And we will throw in 2 free books. So that is 12 books for the price of 10.
This is true. And if you're a subscriber, it'll just get added on to the end of your subscription. If you're new, you get 12 books over the course of a year, 1 a month. You get a letter from me too, which is the real prize.
Happy holidays.
And save those signatures because you never know. Night Ripper. It was